Hello and welcome back to Where Are All My Friends? This was a real treat this week. I got to talk to a dear friend of mine who I've known for quite some time, and I can't believe we hadn't done a podcast together. It's Donovan Melero, who is the drummer and singer of a band called Hail the Sun. He's a booking agent. He just started a magazine called Kill Iconic. If you're watching this intro on YouTube, here's me holding up the magazine. It's beautiful. We talked a lot about just the thought and the creative energy and everything he put into this. I genuinely was so inspired by how much integrity went into that. And it feels like a real community of him making something special with his friends. And it felt so authentic, and his attention to detail and all of his projects and all of his art and his music, and how he balances that with his business brain of being a booking agent and thinking about numbers and the hustle. All of that coming together made for such a good episode. And he's just a genuine homie of mine. Like, it's fun to chop it up with him. We have like a good banter back and forth. With that said, I want to shout out for him a couple things. His band Hail the Sun is dropping a full album on April 16th, so in a little while now. But right when this drops, he should have a song that just came out called Parasitic Cleanse. It came out on February 19th. Go listen to it. Him as a musician, him as a creative, everything I've heard of that album so far is spicy. It's good. So I hope you enjoy it. If you like the podcast and you want to do me a favor, I say it every time, but it's the most helpful thing you can do. And it's so simple. Just tell your friends about the podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. If you want to go above and beyond, like the videos on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening, rate it and subscribe wherever that is. If it's on Apple, write a review, all that good stuff. And something that I mentioned in another video, but I want to mention it again, is I had some physical goods made. And if you're watching this, I'm going to hold it up right now. And if you're listening, you'll have to go to the YouTube page and see what it is. But I had some physical goods made, and I want to mail them to everybody who subscribes to the podcast, wherever it is that you subscribe. I really just want to say thank you to everybody who supports the podcast. I do this because I love it, and I love that people gravitate towards it, and anybody that cares enough to listen and watch means so much. So hit me up, send me a DM, let me know if you follow the podcast. And if you want me to send you something, just send me your address and I got you. There it is. Enjoy the episode. Where are all my friends? We're back again, and we are with my friend, Donnie. And this is cool. This is a long time coming, dude. We've been friends for a long time. We've worked on projects together. You have accomplished so much. You're always doing something. We're long overdue for a checkup and check in anyway. So I'm genuinely hype on this episode. We are with Donovan Melero from Hail the Sun and Kill Iconic and Booking Agent Extraordinaire and a billion other things. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, dude. I completely agree. It's long overdue, and it's good to be able to chat with you here in a very nice environment.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a bummer because we are both in LA and we're on Zoom. But you know what? That's fine. It is what it is. It's easy enough. We're chilling in our cozy bedrooms. I'm wearing sweatpants right now.
It's safer. It's a little more responsible, of course, and that's good.
Yeah. So all good. We still get to chop it up, and I like that. So for anybody who isn't familiar with the legend of Donovan Melero, briefly for a listener, just quickly explain who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Donovan. I perform in the band Hail the Sun. I'm the drummer and the singer of Hail the Sun. Been in that band the longest. It's been coming up on over 10 years now that we've been going. I also perform in a band called Nova Charisma. I am a booking agent currently for Dynamic Talent International. I represent the North American territories. And I just launched a music magazine called Kill Iconic that I'm really stoked on.
Yeah. I think that said it all pretty well. And
I realize it's funny because I just basically list the things I do for work or the things that I'm passionate about. There's so much. I'm sure there's so much more to touch on, but those are the key points of what I do with my life and my time, I guess.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to get into on this podcast that I think is so cool about you, I've admired this about you for so long, is you do a lot of things and you do them all very well. Like I would really consider you a professional at all of those, right? Like it's not like you're just
Thank
like,
you.
"Oh yeah, like I'm a booking agent, but I play the drums with my friend." Like no, Hale is like a very sick, very real band. You have toured all over the world. You've released a ton of albums. It has a cult following. Like it is real. And then as a booking agent, you have a roster that's very, very real. In fact, that's probably one of the first times that you and I worked on something when I was managing Capstan. You were booking. Like that was a
Yeah,
real signed band and we were doing like very real tours. So like
yeah.
every aspect that you do, you don't half-ass it. Like you
Mm-mm.
really come in and just do the thing. And now, even with Kill Iconic, I'm looking at this magazine and it's so intentional. It's so well thought out. It's so beautiful. So that's something that I'm really curious and I want to talk a lot about on this episode is just like, how the fuck do you do so much, my guy? It's so good.
I appreciate that, dude. I really do. There's, uh, I will definitely drive myself crazy sometimes, but it's all shit that I'm really passionate about. That's
Yeah.
first and foremost. It's stuff that I have always started with purely the the want to do it. I want to do those things. In fact, it was kind of a foreign concept to be able to make a living off doing any of those things when I first started them. I knew I wanted to do that, but it wasn't a focus. Like making money, making a living doing that stuff was kind of in the back of my mind when I started doing all the things that I love to do. So I just really like to do them, and they're really and there's time in the day. There is quite a bit of time in a day. Sometimes I feel
Yeah.
like there's not enough, but I appreciate that sentiment, and I just want to spend every moment, every hour that I'm alive, at least, and I'm not sleeping, doing shit that I want to do. And I kind of have this obsession with growing things. Especially lately, I want to always be growing and being and challenging myself, finding different ways that I feel like I'm growing as an individual, while at the same time growing a brand or growing a business. By being, I like to be creative. That comes a lot with the things that I do, and especially writing music. I can tap into that creative mind. But having something under a big umbrella and continuing to develop and to see how I hesitate to use the word big, but I'll use the word big. See how big everything can get, and I like that everything can be interconnected as well. It feels good. It feels fulfilling.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? Like you're saying all of that and I'm like, dude, I feel that on a core spiritual level. Like it's just I don't like downtime. I don't like idle time. Every now and then I can like watch a movie, but that's it. And then I have to go back to doing something. I have to feel like I'm progressing. Like I'm very much about that.
Yeah.
But I think that something with you that I'm so intrigued by is oftentimes people will have like one core talent that they're like pretty damn good at and they can just double down and focus on that. But I have to wonder like did this all come natural to you? Like it's almost like you have two different brains like you cuz you're so business oriented, right? Like when I talk to you as Donovan as a booking agent, it's just numbers and it's percentages and it's splits and it's you can so
Yeah.
quickly like put it together. But then and I can hang there. Like that's my favorite thing. I love talking about that. But then I can't play a single chord on any instrument. And I think I'm tone deaf and I can't do any of that. So like that weird mixture is so interesting to me. Like, does one come more natural to you than the other? Did you have to like put practice and skill, or did you kind of like, at what age, where did that inclination that you had both kind of happen?
So the first thing that came naturally was songwriting and playing drums, writing songs on guitar, singing. That was something that I've been doing since I was a kid. But honestly, as you asked that, I had a kind of another thing that clicked in my head was the I realized my love for business and that field, that like you said, crunching numbers and just figuring out logistics and ideas to develop things in a business sense.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was almost directly after I got sober. All the energy that I was putting towards things that were a part of a non-healthy lifestyle, that
Yeah.
energy went completely in the opposite direction. I started obsessing over not wanting to waste any more time with bullshit, not wanting to waste an ounce of energy with the shit that didn't, it was counterproductive. But that energy had to go somewhere. It needed to go somewhere. And that's when I started booking tours in college and in my seminars. I would be, they're teaching about whatever class I was in, and I'd be on my laptop booking tours on MySpace, on Facebook. That I realized that became my obsession. And I had a knack for it. I learned that it was something that was fun to do, and I couldn't stop
Yeah.
thinking about it. And then everything just sort of came after that. But I think it was really the placement of the energy in a more uh, productive manner, really.
That's so interesting to me. And we don't have to do a deep dive into sobriety because I know you have spoken on that quite a lot.
Sure.
And anybody listening or watching, like if you are interested in that story, like do the deep dive because it's so impressive. And it's just cool. Like I really respect you for that. And what, you're 12 years sober now?
Yeah,
That's
almost
fucking
about.
awesome. Yeah, that's
Thank you, dude.
incredible. So, but the thing that I'm curious of, because I've experienced this with a couple people very close to me in my life that have gotten sober, is it's not everyone. In fact, I would say it's a select few. It's a fewer bunch out of that. But there are certain people that I've observed very, very close to me that have gotten sober and done a similar thing where it's almost like after getting through, like I think one, you have to want to get sober. Again, I can't speak on this like I'm the
Yeah,
pro, but
sure.
I just see it almost feels like from my outside perspective, it's like something clicks of like you've been given this second chance of life, or that like you like maybe you said it. It's like you realize you were almost like spending all this time chasing the wrong thing and you realize you can apply that to something else. Something clicks
Mhm.
and it just makes the best, highest functioning people with the coolest perspective. And I don't know what that is, but my God, do I see it in you.
Thank you, dude. That means a lot. I I think that's a good perspective, and it feels accurate. I felt like there was when I started feeling semi-normal again and started realizing the potential in what I could do um, with my circumstances. It became an obsession. It became such a drive that I just wanted it. I wanted it all. If I saw something that I really liked or that I wanted to achieve, I'm really just dead set on it. I'm still learning every day. There's a lot that comes with it. I'm sure I'll know more a year from now than I do now. It's a constant work in progress, but I think whether I'm whether I'm good or bad at the things that I want to do or try to do, it's all about I still obsess on them. I just
I,
want to do it.
you're as you were saying this in real time, I was thinking with it, and the word obsession came to my head. And I think that that word can have a negative connotation, but I don't mean that
Yeah,
like that at all. But it's almost like you can be obsessed with chasing a high, or like obsessed with that whole culture, I guess. And
yeah,
then if you can find a new obsession, or an obsession of music, or an obsession of songwriting, anything, like I do think that I feel like I'm that way. I'll find a thing like podcasting and like all of a sudden like I'm interested and then I'm obsessed. And
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
interesting
I
that.
agree with you. Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. It's not a complete negative connotation in the sense of the word. It just becomes I've been really passionate about the things that I want to do and about the things I'm fucking very lucky enough to be doing right
Yeah.
now. It is always how I envisioned at least the musician part. That's all I ever did. There was something I found that I wrote either in junior high or early high school, I forget. But it was like, what do you want to do 10 years from now or whatever? it was a very local bandy type of answer. But I was like
Yeah, let's go.
playing my songs for people all around wherever I'm performing or playing. But that really is how I where I envisioned myself, but
Yeah.
didn't quite know how to connect the dots or how to start moving that direction until my mind was clear, until I had gotten rid of the most toxic parts of my lifestyle. That's when I could start
Wow.
realizing, oh, this is the next step. This is the next step. And it took some time. And in the touring aspect, we did a lot of terrible tours, but every
Yeah.
single one, I learned more. I got more connections. I learned the networking game, and um, I made some great relationships.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, take me back to a very, very specific point because you've been a musician for, I mean, what, like when did you pick up your first instrument?
I think I was 5 or 6.
Yeah, so like that's like in your blood. Like that's been you to the core. But I'm so curious of that exact moment. So like you getting sober, finding touring, finding the business side, because I believe you and the rest of the Hale boys have been like best friends forever, right? Like you guys all
Yeah,
go
yeah, been a
back.
while. Hmm.
So like what did that look like? Like where did it start to click in a positive light where the band is coming together, you're starting to tour, you're sober. I think when did you sign to Equal Vision or did you was it Blue Swan first? Take me back to
Blue,
like that
yeah,
early day of like the beginning of the success of that and things coming together.
sure, yeah. We were touring through our college years. On break, we
Okay.
would tour winter break, summer, spring. That was 2010 to 2012. We had all
Yeah.
graduated by 2012, and it was perfect timing. At that point, we got real management, and we got on the radar of other record labels and a booking agent.
Yeah.
That was when we released the Elephantitis EP. And
Okay,
that was
yeah.
so while touring, booking our own regional tours and doing it on my own, we did start to develop a following. We would see people coming back to the shows. It became easier to book tours, but I was still always looking at where I wanted us to be, where I thought we could be, and just thinking, how the fuck does that happen? How did that happen? So the timing was really perfect after we'd all graduated college, is when management came in and we did our first national tour. It was with Dance Gavin Dance in late 2012.
Your
And that's when
first
we
ever
realized,
national tour was with
yeah,
DGD?
yeah,
Fuck.
dude. It
Now,
was
I
in
guess at
2012.
that time, because they kind of had a weird thing where they like extra exploded.
Yeah.
At that time, they were probably popping, but I almost want to say they're bigger now than,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
That band has come, they've had their own very long journey, and I respect it greatly. They've kept at it. Uh, at that time, it was an amazing tour for us. We were going
Like
into
what
big
size
rooms.
rooms was that that
It was
time?
that was going into 700 to 1200 cap
Oh,
rooms, I
shit.
would
Okay. Yeah.
say.
That's still fucking big.
Maybe
That's still a
500 to
proper,
1,000. But yeah,
yeah, that's
the
still a
A markets have some
great,
big rooms.
great tour to be on.
It was awesome tour. It was with our friends, a lot like Birds. We're direct support as well, and it was another great learning experience. And that's when I realized there are people along the country, pockets of them, who had heard of us. And from then, we wrote more music. We did a record with Blue Swan Records,
Yeah.
our album Wake, and that got
Yeah.
the attention from Equal Vision. And we kept playing uh, doing these national tours. A lot of headlining, dude. That was something that we weren't landing support all the time. In fact, hardly ever back in those days, outside of our general camp and our own community of bands and
Yeah.
artists. So we would just headline. We really weren't afraid to headline, and that's a bad word to
I
a lot of bands these
know.
days. And I know it can be a scary thing. And I'm not saying we didn't play to fucking no one. We definitely did at times, but it was that or nothing. And so we just kept going, and we signed to Equal Vision, and then the support tours. We were very lucky. It just kind of kept snowballing and snowballing in a good way. And that was
Yeah.
2015 that we signed to EVR. Dan,
Wow.
we got to know Dan well, who I fucking
Oh
love
my God.
Dan. Dan
I
is so
will
fucking dope.
I will forever credit so much of my early success or even just like getting my foot in the door in as far as like music industry past like going
Mhm.
from touring with bands to like getting into the industry side to
Yeah,
Dan Sancha. Like
yeah, dude.
I will never say a bad word about that dude. He is the one of the kindest, most genuine, incredible people through and through. And I love him more than anything. So
Dude,
he
yeah,
was the one that found you.
I love to hear that. Yeah, I seriously love to hear that. Dan is a legend, and since since you say that, I can also say that Dan's always written so hard for Hail the Sun. He's written so
Yeah.
hard. I have a great. He's a great friend too. I
Yeah.
love Dan. So that was 2015. We got to know him. We signed, and we just kept going. Essentially, we kept writing and touring and writing and touring, and really started to see a lot of growth. I mean, you've managed bands as well, and it can be sometimes it just is so fucking difficult to get a band, even a band that's worth tickets and it's worth something on the right radar. It's like people there's a
Dude.
perception still, and I'm not saying I thought we ever had a negative perception, but it wasn't until we sold out the Roxy for a special Wake playthrough show that I'd booked with a bunch of our friends' bands when I was
Yeah.
booking uh, doing the Night of Blue Swan events. That uh, that was I feel like things started moving more after that. But I mean, it took selling out the Roxy to
That
then
was a
have that
moment.
to our
That's
resume.
cool that you can point back to like a specific moment though, where you feel like it
That
kind of
was one, yeah,
shifted.
yeah.
Yeah.
It shifted. Support budgets went up. It just felt like we were more on the radar, and that was really cool because it was also a cool sign to a lot of our friends and family who were at that show. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, this is what
I,
y'all are
I'm just
doing.
I'm obsessed with moments like that in this podcast because at least for me, I obsessively listen to so many other podcasts and I love hearing from people that I respect that have accomplished things that I haven't or that have just are doing well in what they do when they explain their aha moments or their moments of things that click because it kind of gives you hope if you're chasing it where you're like, okay, that's a tangible, like that's a real moment that you can point to and say, all right, if I can just get there, things could change, things could get better. And I'm not saying sell out the Roxy and your life gets better, but it's just
Yeah.
cool to hear something so specific. And even as you're telling that story, I like, dude, for so long, I was tour managing Set It Off. And I felt like that
Mhm.
was another band that people really, it's not that they didn't take it seriously, but the support tours never came. And there was just
Mhm.
this thing of like, all right, well, we're not going to stop. So they headlined like crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing that I witnessed happen there that I think I've could very confidently say happened with Hale is okay, cool. Maybe you don't get the cool, fun support tours where it's super easy. You just get to show up, there's catering, it's sold out crowd, whatever. But you fucking build a core fan base. Like I feel
Mhm.
like Hale, because of that, because
Yeah.
of those early days, like the amount of Hale tattoos, the amount of like
Yeah.
die hard fans, because you earned them. They were you there. You talked to them in person every show,
Mhm.
right? And I think that
Yeah.
that's something that I respect so much because now you start to get the support tours. Now the trajectory changed for Hale, and you're start like it's doing the thing. But
Yeah.
because you built such a fucking solid foundation in the beginning, you almost have this edge up that other bands just would never have.
Dude, it's crazy, and I would agree, and just in the fact that it's been to add to that, with that has come the slow build, but very grassroots,
Yeah.
very grassroots. And there's longevity in that, and that wasn't even like of course, we're not calculating. Okay, we got to make sure that we build longevity by doing this slowly. It just happened. It just happened how it happened, and we're very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But it is still a trip to think of that. And Set Off thing's a great example as well. I think maybe the word that as you were saying that came to mind is I think sometimes it can take a bit for everyone to see a band's true value. It's not like they
Yeah.
necessarily disregard it. And like I said, I never felt disregarded, but there is value there. We'd headline and play to hundreds of people
Yeah.
in A markets, but still on tours that I had booked, like not DIY. I was a real agent at that point, but I don't think people quite had learned yet that there was this very loyal um, fan base, many of which we know personally, and that's another very cool thing is we've gotten to, like you said, bro down and spend a lot of time and sleep at a lot of houses back in the day by doing that.
Yeah.
But definitely December 2016, that was the Roxy show, and things sort of shifted after that.
That's so cool. And then from there, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I feel like Hale is just it just keeps going in this great direction. And another thing that I was thinking about with the band is you put out a good product. I think that that's something that it's not that it's easy to overlook, but
Mhm.
you can't not do it if you're gonna have a
Yeah,
long career.
dude,
And that
right.
kinda comes back to another point of you that I'm so curious of is, like, the songwriting, the music of the band that you put out.
Mhm.
It has a cult following for a reason. Like, you guys are so technical and you're so crazy with your songwriting, and it fucking rips. And
Thanks,
even, like,
dude.
just now, you just released more music and it holds up. You're not doing that thing where you wanna become a different band because it's 2021 now and you wanna be a pop band out of nowhere, and you're like, "Let's
Yeah.
be on the radio." Like, no, you're staying true to your fans, you're staying true to your roots, and you're releasing music that fucking rips. But, like, is that all you? Are you a songwriter just as much? How does that look like? Like, what's that look like? Because you're also in other bands. Like,
Right. For Hale, it's definitely a group effort. We are all songwriters. We're all so we are co-writing with each other. I will do most of the vocals and lyrics, but it takes a group effort. Like we'll all write instrumentals, including me, and I'll do songwriting. Of course, I have some solo stuff that I'm really proud of, especially some of the more recent stuff that I've been able to do. And in Nova Charisma, that's a joint venture as well,
yeah,
full of songwriters. But I love what you said about the product has to be there. And
yeah,
my good friend Brett Powell one time said, I'm sure he wasn't the one that coined this, but I heard it first from him, that the good shit flows to the top. There's so much shit out there, dude. You know that. There's, especially with the internet and bands music.
more so than
But
ever.
exactly. But the good shit will float to the top. And at that point, things do sort of divide themselves. And I'll admit, when we're in writing new music or we're entering a new cycle, I do have to tap into that creative mindset. It does happen sometimes, especially like I'll wake up in the morning and just have something in my head, and that's what I'll get stuck on for the almost the majority of that day. But
Sick.
I'm thinking about the tours I want to do while we're writing the album, right? But I have to recognize that and sort of detach a little bit, because it the most important thing is the product is. And it's funny to refer to our music as a product, but I mean,
Yeah.
fuck, that is, it essentially is a product. It's our art for sure.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's bought and sold and listened to and have and created a career for us,
Yeah.
I see it that way. So I don't want to discourage anyone by referring to it as that. But the art of the music absolutely comes first. That is the
Yeah.
most important. And we are all extremely anal about that. We'll rework things until they're just right. I'll be extremely stubborn about, not stubborn. I'll be I'll be focused on what I want to say for lyrics, for
Yeah.
melodies. I want to refine and at the same time be growing, not just trying to do the same thing, not changing necessarily, but just growing and know. And we're so lucky. We play what we love. People just happen to like it. And it seems like more people are starting to like it. And that's fucking dope, because we're not necessarily trying to cater to that. We're playing the shit that we like.
Yeah.
Um, but that is always comes first. After that is done is when I can hop full into what I want to do and brand ideas and promotional things and all the ways we want to market the album and do the thing. But
Yeah.
I cannot lose track of the fact that that comes first. It has to
So
be
then
first.
are you equally, because like again, this kind of segues to like other facets of your life and your endeavors. Are you also like heavily involved on the visual creative side and like everything that comes around the song outside of it? Because again, you've now just released Kill Iconic, which
Mhm.
is a full magazine. So like
Mhm.
obviously there's some visual creative side of you as well there too.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, in recent years, definitely, I've been a bigger part of the visual thing with Hail the Sun. We all have. We all sign off and everything. It's a very equal process. And
Mhm.
from 2015 to even up until very recently, even now, we've worked really closely with Michael Rex. She will do
Oh,
so much of our. She was our tour photographer for 4 years straight. she still is when we'll start touring again. And she would do our postings. Like she kind of helped us find a look for tour photos, for promo pictures. She's done, I think, 2 or 3 of our music videos on past cycles.
Yeah. Am I
She's been
thinking
a
of the
big
right tag on Instagram? Brown metal?
brown metal. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been a big part of that process. But we are all, I realized the importance of having everything be uniform more
Mm-hmm.
so. And personally, I realized in the last few years. And so we've had a lot, we've always had a control of what we're doing,
Mm.
but really, really focused on it in the last couple of years, I would say, like making sure it is across the board, the product that we know it can be, or the
Yeah.
level of quality that we want.
I love that. So now I'm at this spot with the podcast where there's 2 parts. And like, as you're saying this, I have 2 things that I want to get into. And I don't necessarily know which one makes more sense. So let's live riff it.
Let's do it.
So
Let's do them
I
both.
want to
Fuck it.
talk about, well, of course, but I want to talk about Kill Iconic very specifically. And I have it. I have it right here in front of me. You so
Awesome, dude.
graciously mailed me a copy. I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about a feeling that I get when I look through it. But then the other part of it that kind of ties into what you were saying with working so closely with your band, with everyone outside of your band. And I feel like you have an ecosystem of friends, and I
Oh
see
yeah.
them all throughout this magazine. And I think that that's a very special piece of not only Hale, but of Donovan. A lot, like you've booked a lot of your friends' bands when they didn't have anyone else to look out for them. You have created bands and projects with so many friends. I almost think of it as like this like Blue Swan EVR homie ecosystem.
Mm,
And it ties together. It's what I see, and what it reminded me of when I looked at Kill Iconic is I've been so uninspired by most music magazines. I
mm,
see them and I'm just like, fucking cool. I couldn't force myself to care if I tried. And I don't know what that is. But then when I look at Kill Iconic, I turn through every page and I see your friends. And I see people
mm,
that like I feel inspired because I feel like you're inspired. And I feel like every piece of that matters and every photo is thought about. And it's a fucking community. And it's people that are
mm.
genuinely trying to bring each other up. And God, do I ride for that. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to tell me about Kill Iconic or if you want to tell me about your cool friend system. And if I'm getting that right,
Dude,
you're gonna have to go from here.
you are, dude. You hit the nail on the head. And the way you described it is exactly what, how I see it. It's exactly what I uh, unintentionally intended in a way. I know
Yeah.
it, I ride so fucking hard for the people that I work with.
Yeah.
I have such good friends. Hail the Sun's crew has been the same for 5 years. We've had the same,
Yeah.
and not only do we work together off the road. Christelle runs our merch store. Alan co-writes and produces with us, and produces my solo music.
Yeah. And he toured with
Sam
you
will
guys on
mix
Warped
events for
Tour, right?
us. Yeah,
I
he
think I
still
met
tours
him.
with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He and of course Michael Rex will
Yeah.
still. I mean, I live with her right now, and
Oh,
she's not here
crazy.
currently, but we still work on so many things outside of that. Not only do we work together on those things, we all hang out still, just as if we hang out outside of work. That's what's brought us
Yeah.
together. But my partners, oh, well, before I get into that, the community thing is something I'm super grateful for. And if I can work with people that I know, love, and trust, that's always going to be the first. What's the word I'm thinking of? That's always going
Priority?
to be, huh?
Priority?
Preferred. That's always going to be the preferred thing. If there's
Yeah.
people that we can use in our like you said community, our ecosystem, that's
Yeah.
what I want to do. That's what we've been doing, and everyone in this first issue of the magazine, like you said, there are friends, there are people that we've
Yeah.
toured with for years, there are people that we've built real connections with, real relationships with. Um,
Yeah.
it got to a point where I've been thinking about doing this for a couple years. uh, the magazine. But between touring and a very busy schedule, it never really fleshed out fully.
Yeah.
In April, a month after everything closed down because of the
Yeah.
pandemic, is when I thought I've got to pivot. We have no idea when things are going to be opening up. All my
Mhm.
revenue, everything I do in
Yeah.
general relies on being mobile, on transportation, on live entertainment.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to find other ventures that would take up that time and that energy, that creative energy. And that's when I brought that idea back. And I have for this first issue, I had three partners. Christelle is part of it.
Amazing.
Michael Rex and Claudia
Amazing.
did did this layout beautifully. It looks great. And so we would just start brainstorming ideas, having a skeleton. We thought for the cover story, the best thing, the best story that we could come out with was the A Lot Like Bird story. Kurt's such
Oh
a
yeah.
homie,
Yeah.
Mikey's such a homie, and they'd never done an interview about the band and why an interview together about why the band broke up, what the dynamics were. They have a pretty interesting story amongst a diehard fan base. But every other story in that is something that comes from a friend and is we're all really passionate about. The cool thing was I realized in doing this is how many people I know and have met through this community, through music and touring, that the timing, it just felt right. It wasn't pulling teeth at all. It wasn't hoping to approach someone who I had never spoken to give me
Yeah.
some type of content. We all knew each other. And I thought, what better timing, how fortunate that it can be a phone call to a ton of friends. And moving forward, all the things we have for these future issues, it's the same thing. It's people that I know, or if I don't know personally, there's a degree of connection. We've heard of
Yeah.
each other.
Now I
We
should
can
preface,
connect
or
on that
I
way.
should interject one thing in there is
Yeah.
I don't view this as some cool kids club. I don't view you guys as like a clique of like, oh, they're guarded and they're precious and they don't want to accept new people. I don't see it like that at all.
Mm-hmm,
I see it
mm-hmm.
as a circle of people that are trying to come up and trying to grow and trying to build. Because as we
Yeah.
were talking about that, I was like, I've seen other like cliques where it's like they're too cool
Yeah.
for school, whatever. No, like
I know
I
what you
just view
mean.
this as people trying to bring each other up.
Yes. And that's also very good to hear because that is what it does feel like. The visuals, most of the pictures, if not, I'd say 90% of those pictures in a
Yep.
magazine are from Michael Rex. The
Yep.
layout was done beautifully by Claudia, and
It's
Christelle
great.
helped to edit. Yeah, it really is great.
And even
Christelle
like
would,
literally like the product, like, dude, it's I mean, you don't need to have any physical media anymore, right? Like everything can be digital, but
yeah,
like in holding it, it's thick paper. Like it's like actually like tangible and it feels good and it's a beautiful matte finish. And you go through the pages and it's like the fonts, the printing, like how the fuck it's like this is your first magazine and it's
yeah,
proper, dude. It feels like something that I want to have physical. So,
dude,
like,
that's
I don't know
so
where that
fucking
came
dope,
from. I don't know what guru out of y'all did that, but it's
dude.
just inspiring to see.
It was absolutely a team effort to bring this vision to life. I like I said, had thought about it for a few years now and always wanted to do that, but I couldn't have done it alone. I
Yeah.
owe how the product came out, like I said, to my team on this first issue, Claudia, Michael Rex, and Christelle.
Yeah.
The quality of paper, I did shop around for a bit.
Yeah.
I wanted
Good.
extremely high quality, just what you said.
Yes.
When we got the samples and we picked the one that we wanted, like I held both, I held a few of them, and I thought this is the one that I want. And we got it produced, and when they sent it, it was just so fucking cool because it was exactly the finish I wanted. It was exactly the thickness I wanted. I wanted it to feel much. We had some really great magazine style as well, like with like premium magazine style. I wanted this more to be like a collectible item, like a lookbook almost, something that you'd want to
Yeah.
put on your coffee table and not
Yeah.
necessarily you're in your bathroom. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've wanted to be something you can present and that feels good. And it is only print. It's print exclusive. You cannot download PDF. I love that kind of shit. Or I feel like our
Yeah.
reader base, people are subscribing every day still. They
Yeah.
like the tangibility of it. They like the exclusiveness um,
Well,
about
it's
all of
almost
that.
like vinyl has a resurgence, right? And I think
Exactly.
there's some of it you could have the audio elitists and talk about this and that and this, and it has like a warm tone, all that. To me, the thing about vinyl that I've always loved is it forces you to listen to an album. You don't put on a playlist, you don't shuffle it like it's this song into this song into this song. So when you put on a record on vinyl, and listen, you're listening to a whole piece. You're listening to a cohesive piece of work and it
Hmm.
flows together. And if an album is good, you appreciate it more on vinyl. I'm much more
Hmm.
inclined to want to purchase an album on vinyl if it's a good album and I'm going to want to listen to it through and through. So when I think about this magazine, I'm like, I don't care to own a physical medium of a print magazine if it's just a bunch of junk and if it's just a bunch of
Hmm.
like random hob job this is and that's and ads and whatever. But like this feels like okay, so it's a physical publication. So if it's physical, it's intentional. And as you
Hmm.
read through it and as you look at the photos and you read the stories, it feels I don't feel insulted. I don't feel like I've wasted my time reading it. I'm like, this is cool. It forced me to put my phone down. It forced me to disconnect
That's
from a
so tough.
screen and look at it. And like, dude, it's just cool to me. I think it represents something bigger than a specific magazine. It just represents you saying, yeah, I'm a booking agent. Yeah, I'm a drummer. Yeah, I'm a singer, but I need to create more. And you didn't half-ass it. You put out another piece of art. And I think that's so impressive. I love to see people create something that's lasting and meaningful. And that I think past the magazine is a feeling that I feel when I talk to you and I hang out with you all too often is like you put out things that matter.
Dude, thank you. Really. And once again, I'm just so stoked to hear you describe it that way because that is the most ideal sense of that's the vibe that it feels like that for me as well in
Yeah.
terms of holding it. It's great that it comes off that way. And I think something I haven't necessarily touched upon yet is outside of the logistics and the layout and all that stuff was the content. And the reason why there was even a spark of wanting to do this a couple of years ago and since then was let me start. I respect print magazines across the board, especially ones that have been around for a while. It's not easy to do. They're going to change with their demographic. That's absolutely understandable. That being said, there is so much content that has come from this community of bands and people. So many cool stories through people I've met, people I know, that it
Yep.
started bubbling up. There's so much within the the, the I've already said it, I guess. There's so much within this community of
Yeah, I don't
people
know what
that
to call it. Can I call it the Kill Iconic ecosystem now? Is that what
yeah,
this is
let's do that.
becoming?
Let's do that. There's a demand for it. It may not be a big enough demand for a major publication to necessarily want, but it's fucking there, dude. There's things that maybe covered 10 years ago in some of the more popular music magazines that I would want. I would read that. I would see interview with Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw, and I'm like, fuck, I want to know what he said. So I
Yeah.
would get that magazine. But a lot of those same magazines have shifted to a different demographic,
Yeah.
but the demand is still there. In fact, it's grown. Maybe 5 years ago, I don't think 5 years ago it's as big as it is now. And I love that
Mm.
I'm even a part of it, that I get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And why not showcase some of the talent and personalities
Yeah.
and stories that maybe looked over by other publications, just like the mentality of Hail the Sun would book our own headliners when no one would take us out. It's the same thing. Fuck it. Let's just make
Yes.
our own
Yes.
magazine. Let me do this and put it together because there is a reader base that would love to know this shit. And I'm very grateful that that is the
Yes.
case. They're
And I
they're selling. People are into it.
God, I feel like there's a lesson of integrity there. Of like, you are such a great example of chase and do what you genuinely fucking love and make something with your friends who love it too. Like, you're not chasing all these random fads, right? Like
Mhm.
you have not compromised the person that you are and the vision that you have and the music that you want to make. You're making what you love with the friends that love doing it as well.
Mhm.
So I think it's like, even if you're listening to this podcast and you've never heard Hail the Sun and you don't know the people that are in this magazine, or you don't know the extended homie group that every of all the people that Donovan have worked with, it's like, to me, I see a bigger lesson and a bigger concept of just like, if Donnie can do this with all of his friends, then so can anyone else. Like, if there's
Mhm.
anything that anybody is just like, no, like, I'm obsessed with this. I am super, super hyper focused into this one specific genre, or creating content like this, or anything.
Mhm.
You're the example of just like, cool, you can do it. And it doesn't matter if anyone else catches on or if they don't. Cause like you can metaphorically headline your anything you need to until other people
Yeah.
get it, and you're gonna have that core. And I just think that like, you prove that so well, and you do it successfully.
That's super flattering, dude. Seriously, thank you. It's been a very exciting thing to see to launch. It took months to get together. There were some big uh some big speed bumps in the way as well, but we did eventually get it together. I love my team. I'm very grateful for them. They were the
Yeah,
first people I asked to do it. Said,
yeah,
of course, we'd love to do this. They see the long term picture. They see
yeah,
the potential, the growth, and we all love working together anyway. So with the team for this first issue, it just came together so naturally, and I'm really grateful that I have friends that who want to be a part of it in terms of being a part of the actual team that puts this whole thing together,
yeah,
and then people that volunteer their time, uh, or would take time to email their answers back, or we met with half those people in person, and took pictures, and recorded the audio and video from these interviews, because
yeah,
it just felt more genuine to do it that way, and I'm grateful for their time. It was a very enlightening thing to see how much actually exists all around me that we
yeah,
now get to display for people who really want, who they're hungry for this shit, dude. It's why the a physical product in this community of bands. And I
yeah,
mean, even outside of that, it is um it's becoming more popular. And I will say, you can buy the single issue. They just went into some select record stores as well. It's funny.
oh,
I've been like,
sick.
now trying to book magazines. It's like, instead of booking tours, it's like I'm hitting up record stores and distributors,
No
trying to get them to carry
shit.
the magazine. I've hit up a lot of people. It's learning that game all over again. It's like finding contacts for a
Does
promoter
it
in a city.
feel parallel though? Like, are you kind of
It's
like, are you
extremely,
okay?
extremely, dude. It's got
So that
the phone
Donnie that
call
I
of,
know is figuring it out pretty quick.
yeah, explaining who I am, explaining what I'm doing to a record store owner who has no fucking clue. But some have taken the chance, and they're starting to be stocked around the country. You can buy them online, but the big thing is subscriptions. We want people to subscribe. You get a cheaper rate if you subscribe. Shipping is free. It just
Mhm.
shows up at your doorstep every time an issue comes out. Those come with exclusive perks, like you can get stickers. We'll have flexi discs in the future of
Oh,
exclusive
no
songs from people
shit.
in the magazine. And another one is, we'll hand number them. I'll hand number all subscription issues up to a certain amount. And
Yeah.
that's something that you don't get with the single issues. You have to be a subscriber to get those exact perks,
Dude,
which
you
I
got me
think
fucked up
is
with
much
that
better.
flexi disc. I'm
Yeah.
all for like, I just love the idea of hidden, like rewarding the people, like your day ones, with weird, cool, hidden things that they never asked for, that you put way too much time and attention into. So, like, as soon as you said that, I'm like, unreleased demo with your whole Kill Iconic ecosystem. Like, you and all the homies are like a song that got written together that never came out, and it's
Yeah,
just released. Like, you don't say anything about it, and then a magazine comes and there's a flexi disc and people put it on and they're like, what is this? Like, I'm obsessed with
exactly,
things like that.
dude. Exactly. I'm the same way. I've always been a huge fan of Easter eggs and of
Yeah, Easter
surprise
eggs.
things like that. It just makes things so cool. It's like discovering an old Glassjaw demo that I hadn't heard before. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, where the fuck did this come from? Like, they never advertised it. It just kind of snuck out of nowhere. I wanted provide that with people who are subscribing and people who are feel attached to it. I feel like people connect with this kind of thing, and as
Yeah.
do I. It's just
Yeah.
there's this huge connection with everyone, and I just love it, dude. I really am extremely grateful. Talking about it again with you right now, it pumping me up again in the sense that I would have, oh, dude, all last summer, all last fall, I would be pacing. I've walked miles in my fucking room, miles, just thinking about it in circles, thinking about it, calling up Rex, Christelle, Claudia, calling up band friends, uh, people who are good friends of mine who play
Yeah.
music, running ideas by them, getting so hyped on what this could be. And the magazine is it's going to be its own thing. I think it's going to continue to grow. I've been hit up. It's crazy to see how many people have contacted me afterwards, musicians
Yeah.
and writers who want to
Yeah.
also be a part of it, which is fucking dope. But it is phase one out of this big plan I have for
Yeah.
Kill Iconic.
Doesn't it just seem though that like it's so easy to talk about it, but it's so much harder to be about it, right? Like the amount of hours you put in, the amount of samples you had to go through, like to get a finished product. So it's like, good. I'm fucking glad people hit you up because it's like people see it once they're holding it, once they're looking at it. It's like, oh damn, like it's a reminder of like, yeah, like if
Mhm.
you want stuff in the world, you have to actually like do it. You have to ship it out. You have to get the finished product and turn it from pacing and conversations on the phone to something real. I don't know. It's like it represents so much to me to see you taking on another endeavor and doing it well.
Dude, it took some time. It took time for sure, and it took a lot of energy. And it's an investment, definitely a long term play as far
Yep.
as any type of revenue that
Yep.
I plan on seeing. And
But you're probably like
but
me on that. You probably don't give a shit. Like
no,
it's
dude, like
so far from that.
exactly there's definitely a business sense to it. And of course, I'm crunching numbers and thinking of break even points and when we actually start to see profit. But
Yeah.
if that was the goal from the beginning, we wouldn't have done it. It's like we're investing so much free time into it. We wouldn't have been so into it. Like the idea was driven by the idea. It was not driven by a
Yep.
financial sense. That stuff all just kind of comes in time. It comes together. You get to trust the process.
Yep.
I was just wanted to work on something dope with good friends, which is what I did. I'm very grateful for them, for the whole team,
Yep.
for the reader base, all of that, dude. It's so fucking cool. I'm every day I'm shipping out magazines. That's Christelle taught. She ships Hail the Sun's online store, right? So
Yeah.
when we started the magazine, I had no idea how to ship things. I know I sound like a noob, but I wasn't printing out labels and shipping my own shit. So I bought a printer, and Christelle came over and showed. We did all of the issues at my house over the course of 3 days, non-stop packaging for the first round. And now I stay on top of it. She showed me how to do the printer and how to get the label just right and postage and shit. So every
Isn't that
day I have a
fun
set
though? It's
block
like
of
it's
time.
that magic. It's like
It is, dude.
that
We have our
early
own
day
packaging system.
grind.
We have
Yeah.
a way that we package it. It's all very uniform. I'll
It looked
package up the
great. The
issues in the
black
morning
bubble
and I'll go.
mailer.
Exactly, dude. I
Yeah.
really wanted the black bubble mailer for stores that order 10 or more issues. I have a light blue box that has a Kill Iconic sticker on it as well. That I think
Nice.
looks really cool. I want the branding to all be uniform. That's very important. And Rex is huge on that as well. And so I
Yeah.
go to the post office every day, drop off who's ever ordered the stuff the night before. It's me or Christelle. It's kind of like we'll rotate days with whoever has the time to do it. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that's so fun. That's so fun. I've always like on the money thing too. Like it's yeah, it's fun to make money, but I always just view it as the scorecard. Money just means that you're putting out something that's of value, like that is of perceived value to others. It's
Mhm.
not like, "Oh, cool, it's so sick, blah, 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 I have money." It's just like, "Oh, cool, people care." Like, it's
Yeah.
just a meter of how much people care, and it's such a fun thing to chase of like, "Look, it's viable enough to keep going. Enough
Yeah.
people care that it can exist in this world."
You know,
I don't know, it's just I don't it's cool.
what what you're saying is exactly it reminded me of this other moment that I can remember in time that is from what we talked about maybe even a half hour ago now. Damn,
Yeah.
where it was 2016 was actually when I realized this is something that we can do. Like I can make this a real living now. That's when around
Oh,
2015,
wow.
2016 is when I was like, I mean, I worked in the food industry from the age of 15 and a half to the age of 24. And that was my means of living,
Yep.
paying rent and doing all that stuff. And when I realized that I could be making what I would make there plus more, and it was continuing to just grow, that it was another milestone aha moment. Like, holy shit, this actually is possible. But it wasn't. I did not set out to do
Hmm.
that
But
necessarily.
then our weird obsessive progress brains see that and it's like, wait a minute, I can do what I love and I can make the same amount as food and service. Oh, wait, it can go a little bit up. So then again, it's not like this, like, oh, I'm trying to be rich and better than everybody. No, it's just like the obsession of like, I love what I'm doing and I get to perfect it to the point where I can survive. Holy shit, how could you not do this?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And since then, it's just continued to be a very fun journey that I've been lucky to experience up until now.
God, I love that. I love
Yeah, dude.
that. I mean, dude, I feel like you and I, we have our conversations all the time, and every time we talk, we just get so fired up, and I love it. And this was so long overdue. I do feel like we could
Yeah,
talk
dude.
forever, but we kind of hit a great spot. I feel like this is a very nice spot to leave it. So my final question for you:
Yeah.
when's that Kill Iconic podcast coming?
The Kill Iconic podcast will be surfacing very shortly.
Yeah,
I'm in, yeah,
let's
and I'll
go.
be picking your brain about all that. But I've been planning it now for um, almost a couple months now. I was going to be a little after the magazine, and with the Kill Iconic brand, dude, I wanted to do even more. I'm not sure when this episode is going to air, but there will be a label that's going to follow relatively shortly. Which I same thing. I realized putting together all this stuff with just friends and community. Why not
Yeah,
try to start putting out music as well? And
I
then
love it, dude.
I've got a bunch of different. It's going to be a cool growth over time. I want it to live all in that Kill Iconic world. I want. I'm happy to have that be its overall thing. But to answer your question, podcast will be very shortly,
I love
and
it,
I hope
and
you'll come on when I do it.
oh my God, it would be a huge honor. You
You know,
know it.
um,
You just tell
I
me
think
when.
there was something also I wanted to add. I think will be
Please,
cool
please.
for people to hear, and it
Oh
involves
my
you and
God,
I.
yeah.
What I can also remember being a very definitive moment, maybe where my I've always thought, um, I've always thought of I want to do what I want to do, and I'm going to try to do it, and I know it's possible, and I've had that mindset. I definitely have, but it hit a different level after you showed me that infamous fucking podcast with Kevion in 2017. You sent me that,
Dude,
and that was another very, very big moment. I
that
did,
changed my
I
life.
did the writing
Me too.
down your thing, and the shit started happening, dude. It was, I couldn't. It was just crazy, and I do trace that back. That's where I feel like my mindset changed in even more like upward. It just felt more focused. I remember,
Yeah,
oh,
dude.
I could envision more easily, I think is the
Yeah.
grammatically correct way to say it, more easily what I wanted to do, how I
Yeah.
was going to do it, and
Yeah.
just make it happen. And I'm not saying that everything that I wrote down or everything that I want is going to come true. That's not the case. Of course not. And I'm not even saying that it's going to be all easy and it's success from here on out. But it was just a trip to see the things that I had written down, what had happened, and how I started thinking about things differently, much more in the law of attraction way, and this idea of um, manifesting it with integrity, not just taking, but
Yes.
making,
Yeah.
having this be a focal point, and like, I guess, living it as if it was already happening or was going to happen inevitably. Just living that way,
Yes.
living like it was already a
Yes.
thing, and seeing that bring stuff in was a fucking trip. It was after that podcast that you showed me, dude, that you
Dude,
showed me. It was such a cool
I
moment.
let's like, let's talk about that for a second, just because that one,
Absolutely,
that I'm
dude.
so honored that I would like, I'm so glad that that clicked to you and me as well. Like when I heard that, and for the listener, that is episode 50 of Short Story Long, which is a podcast by Chris Paff or Drama, and Kevin or Kevion Sturdivant came on the show. He's a real estate agent, but he had worked with a lot of people in streetwear, primarily Jonas from LRG. And he has the craziest story in the world. He's gone through everything you can imagine. He's had some very high highs and very low lows and just kept it like so real. And did you realize? I don't know if you ever saw, I did a podcast with him. That was one
Dude,
of
I saw
mine.
that. I wanted to ask you about it, but it wasn't a text combo. It was like I wanted
Yeah,
to
it's
hear
a
about it.
well, yeah. So uh again, for the listener, so we don't go too sidebar, but like he just has a very good non-cheesy way of explaining the law of attraction and manifestation and writing down your goals specifically and coming from faith that it will happen. And he's said it in a couple different ways.
Exactly.
And like, I mean, you can follow him on social media. You can go back and listen to the episode that I did with him. I think it's episode 32. I mean, he is a limitless well of great information, but the point of it all is I think both you and I, we've had this shift where we were already very high functioning people, but then it was almost like this, like, oh, wait, I'm allowed to have nice things. I'm allowed to have and accomplish my dream goals and my
Hmm.
dream things.
Hmm.
And it was just that shift of like letting yourself think that big and then treating it like it was already there and writing those things down.
Yes.
And it just instills this confidence in you and this energy and this motivation to work harder. Like it's not like you're just
Yeah.
sitting there and you're closing your eyes and wishing all day. You have to work.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it just like, I don't know what that shift is because I had the same thing happen to me and things got
Yeah.
so much better. So
I
that's
remember
God,
it
man.
came at a time I really wanted to hear. I needed to hear something like that, and it resonated in me. This different energy. It resonated a different energy out of me that I was able
Yeah.
to hone on after hearing that episode. Something about it just really, really stuck, and I felt changed. My mindset felt changed, and I felt in a just like you, if what anything was possible. I just started thinking that way and not telling myself necessarily I have to think this way. It just was more of a I can't really explain it. I think I've tried to.
It's
I've explained it already. I don't want to keep it going in circles. It just was really, really
totally.
worth it. It was a great
Yeah.
feeling, and I think things. I'm not sure that things would be. I would have done things exactly the same way had I not heard that. That was a big shift in the way that I moved forward in everything that
Yeah.
I was doing.
I think too, it's interesting because I have a select group of friends that really resonate with that general vibe, energy, mindset, focus that Kevion articulates so well. And it's so reassuring that you can work so hard and be so driven, but then it's like sometimes you can kind of get lost or just think that it's so daunting. So when you hear it and you kind of shift your mindset of you're already there and you're just having fun with the process, magic happens. And that's
Yeah,
so fucking cool, dude.
yeah, dude, it was a great thing, and I'm really glad you showed me that.
Yeah, damn. I'll link that in the show description and all that too. So if anybody else
It's
wants to get
long, but
to it is.
it's worth it. It was a
Yeah.
I listened to it on two drives, and
Yep.
it got me through that drive all wired and shit. Things that I wanted to do and how I was
Yeah.
gonna approach things differently.
That's so awesome. It's just cool that we're gonna talk in circles if we keep talking about it. But it's just cool to hear that you have elevated continuously and again and again and again, and that you're operating from this place of just like making shit happen. It's awesome. It inspired like we were long overdue for a catch up, but I'm fucking fired up. We're recording this late at night right now. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm gonna have in the next hour. I'm just gonna be fucking inspired out of my mind. I don't know what to do with myself.
I'm telling you, I'll just pace in my fucking room. I'm probably gonna do that again tonight while thinking of other shit. Just pace around in circles.
God,
It's
dude.
work though. It's weird that the work schedule has shifted. At first, it was hard to get used to because I was used to sitting down at a desk and emailing. That was work. Not saying that's not work anymore, but a lot more of energy and time is spent into things that aren't necessarily tangibly written down. It's
Yeah.
way more thinking. I can just think for an hour straight and be comfortable with the fact. At first, it was very uncomfortable because I was like, what the fuck
Yeah.
am I doing? Now I'm a
Yeah.
lot more comfortable with that's where a lot of the ideas that I've been then will be able to put into action have come from. So that's productive. It just sitting down or
Absolutely.
pacing can be fucking productive if I allow it
Yeah.
to happen, if I allow myself to be okay with that, with that type of productivity.
Totally. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but Greg McKeown wrote a book called Essentialism, and there's a lot of that of like giving yourself the time and space to just truly think undistracted and look and think bigger and take the busy work away. Some of the most productive people cut out the busy work and give themselves time for those
Mm-hmm.
big picture things and to really align and not just
Mm-hmm.
do the busy work. So that's God, dude. Oh, you just get it. It's so cool. It's so
There was
cool.
a lot of focusing on, like you said, on the business or career stuff, or even the art creative stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
but I wanted to. Oh, this is actually totally off topic. You might even be able to just cut this out. But I wanted to try to challenge a different part of my brain, and so I started pilot lessons in this last summer as well, out in Van Nuys, and that I'm still doing them, but that was completely different type of challenge. But it broke up my day. It broke up the the normal flow of thoughts because that required a totally different set of thinking and concentration. I mean, I imagine it becomes a little more second nature over time, but especially at the beginning, having to focus on something completely different and really think about it. That then after that, I could continue on with different different things that were like the magazine or something that we were working on with
Yeah.
almost a fresh mind after that.
No, dude, I'm leaving that. That explains just you of how like you're always challenging yourself to have these new perspectives and all that. I love that. And I think let's leave it here. I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll talk again on
yeah.
your podcast and just in general, anything like that. If there is a listener that enjoyed this podcast and they want us to come back and talk about one specific subject, we can try our best. We do get excited and go all over the place, but I'll happily have you back anytime. And where what's the best where should people find you? What should they point to conclude this? Your Instagram? Do you want to point to Kill Iconic?
Sure,
What
yeah.
should people check
Uh,
out?
my Instagram is Donovan Donovan underscore HTS. Hail the Suns is just Hail the Sun,
Cool.
and Kill Iconic is same thing at Kill Iconic. You
Yeah.
can look at more information at killiconic.com, and that would
Easy.
be if I would I will take the opportunity also to plug that Hail the Sun released new music, a new
Oh
single, and our
yeah.
new album, New Age Filth, is coming out April 16th on Equal
Let's
Vision Records.
go.
Yeah,
Let's go. I
yeah.
love that. That's a perfect plug. Go pre-save that. That single, what's the name that I
Domino.
literally Domino. Dude, that shit ripped.
Thanks,
That shit
dude.
ripped. It was 4.5 minutes or something like that. And I was like, God
Yeah,
damn, I
yeah.
feel like
Well,
I'm going down a whole different world. It was like
I think
I have such like short attention span, and the whole song, I was like, wow, okay, okay. It was good.
I'm really proud of
So
it. We think it's some of our best work, so hopefully people enjoy it.
yeah, I'm genuinely hyped to hear that album. That's awesome. So thank you so freaking much for joining me. This was such a fun episode. And that, my friends, is why Donovan is my friend. He's an inspiring dude.
Thank you so much, man. Seriously, it's been a pleasure catching up and talking. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great.